Whydos godi allo pline. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you today about a question that has echoed through every generation, whispered through tears, shouted in despair, and carried in silence by hearts that feel broken beyond repair. Why does God allow pain? It is a question born not from curiosity, but from agony. It is a question that comes from hospital rooms, gravesides, broken homes, shattered dreams, and sleepless nights. And if you've ever asked it, you're not alone. Let me invite you to stay with me all the way to the end of this message, because what you're about to hear may not only answer your question, it may lift a weight you've carried far too long and bring clarity to pain you never understood. Pain is not the absence of God's love, my friend. The first thing I want you to hear is this: pain does not mean God has stopped loving you. Pain is not a sign that God has abandoned you, rejected you, or forgotten your name. In fact, Scripture shows the opposite. The people God used most, Joseph, Job, David, Paul, were people God allowed to walk through great pain because there was greatness inside them that comfort alone could not reveal. You may feel pressed, but you are not crushed. You may feel confused, but you are not forgotten. And the very fact that your heart is still beating means God is not finished writing your story. Pain awakens what comfort puts to sleep. There are moments when comfort can make us forget our need for God. But pain has a way of snapping us awake. Pain pushes us to the place of prayer, the place of dependence, the place where we lift our eyes beyond ourselves and reach for the one who made us. If you're hurting today, hear this. Your pain is not wasted. God is awakening something inside you that comfort could never stir. Pain becomes the platform for God's power. Some of the most beautiful miracles are born out of seasons we beg God to remove. When life feels too heavy for you to carry, that is when God steps in and says, "Now watch what I can do." The Red Sea didn't part until Israel felt trapped. The lion's den didn't close its jaws until Daniel was surrounded. The fourth man didn't appear in the fire until the flames rose high. Your pain may be setting the stage for God to show His power in a way you never imagined. Pain prepares you for purpose. Every valley strengthens a faith that mountaintops never could. Every trial builds a courage that comfort never requires. Every tear deepens a compassion you couldn't learn from a textbook. The very thing you're asking God to remove may be the tool He is using to prepare you for the assignment He designed specifically for you. Pain is not the end. God has a plan here. God never ends a story with pain. He may allow pain to enter the chapter, but He will never let it be the final word. Behind the scenes, beyond your sight, in ways you cannot yet see, God is weaving a plan far greater than the suffering you feel today. One day, what broke you may become the very testimony that heals others. My friend, don't walk away. Don't give up. Don't assume the pain you feel is pointless. God is closer than you think, working deeper than you imagine, and preparing something greater than you expect. Stay faithful. Your breakthrough is on its way. When we talk about pain, many people instinctively assume it means God has withdrawn His hand or turned His face away. But let me speak to you directly, heart to heart. Pain is not the absence of God's love. Very often it is the evidence of it. You may not feel that in the moment. You may sit in your room staring at the ceiling, wondering if God truly loves me. Why am I hurting like this? But I want you to lean in, stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to change the way you see every struggle you've ever faced. Let me speak plainly. There are seasons when God allows pain not because He is punishing you, but because He is preparing you. Sometimes He permits the storm because what He planted in you cannot grow in sunshine alone. There are qualities, strength, endurance, compassion, spiritual depth that only develop in the soil of difficulty. You don't build muscle carrying feathers. You build it under pressure, under weight, under strain. And in the same way, God shapes your spiritual life through moments that feel heavy, uncomfortable, and painful. Think of a refiner working with gold. The gold is beautiful, yes, but it must be melted by fire before the impurities rise to the surface. That fire is intense, overwhelming, and consuming, but it does not destroy the gold. It purifies it, my friend. Sometimes God allows the heat to rise in your life because He sees something inside you that is worth refining. He loves you too much to leave you as you are, and though the fire may scare you, it will not consume you. It is shaping you. I want you to hear this. Your pain is not punishment. If God wanted to punish you, He could do it without allowing a single tear. But when God permits pain, it is often because He sees a version of you that you cannot see yet. He sees strength you haven't discovered. He sees potential you haven't tapped into. He sees a future He is preparing you to walk into. And pain becomes the tool that chisels away what cannot go with you into that future. Look back over your life. Think of the moments that shaped you most deeply. Were they the comfortable ones, the easy ones, the seasons where everything worked exactly as you hoped? No, the moments that carved wisdom into your soul were the ones you didn't think you'd survive. The moments that revealed who God truly is were the ones where you had no one else to depend on. And the moments that grew you were the ones where you cried out, God, I can't carry this anymore, only to discover He was carrying you. So let me tell you this with boldness. Pain does not mean God has stopped loving you. It means He is doing something deeper than comfort could ever accomplish. Sometimes God interrupts your life, not to break you, but to build you. Sometimes He removes something you clung to, not to harm you, but to free you. And sometimes He allows you to walk through darkness because the version of you on the other side will shine with a brilliance you cannot imagine right now. You may not understand your pain today, but one day you will look back and say, that was the season God loved me enough to grow me. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to shift the weight you've been carrying in your heart. When we walk through pain, real pain, the kind that steals our breath and keeps us awake at night, we often whisper in the quiet places of our soul, God, where are you? If you love me, why does it hurt this much? But let me speak directly to you, not as someone standing above your struggle, but as someone who understands what it means to ask those same questions. Pain is not the absence of God's love very often. It is the evidence of it. I want you to feel the truth of that, not in your mind, but deep inside the places where the hurt still lingers. There are moments when God allows pain because there is something inside you He is shaping, forming, and maturing, something that cannot be grown in seasons of comfort. You see, comfort is pleasant, but it rarely changes us. Comfort makes us settle. Comfort keeps us where we are. But pain wakes us up, stirs us, stretches us, and pushes us toward the purpose He placed in us long before we even knew we had one. Think about a seed. Before it becomes anything beautiful, it must be buried, covered in darkness, pressed into the ground. And what does God do? He allows the pressure, the dirt, the hidden place. Why? Because that is where transformation begins. That is where potential starts its journey toward becoming something powerful. And my friend, your life is no different. If God allows you to feel the weight of the soil, it is because He knows what's about to grow from it. Let me speak plainly to your heart. God's love does not always look like protection from pain. Sometimes His love looks like strength in the middle of it. Sometimes it looks like a closed door that feels cruel in the moment, but is actually saving you from something that would have destroyed you. Sometimes His love is the tear you cry that finally breaks the pride you didn't know was keeping you from fully trusting Him. And sometimes, listen to this, sometimes His love allows pain because pain is the only language that gets our attention. When life is easy, we drift. But when life hurts, we look up. When the ground beneath us shakes, we cling to the one who never moves. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions and leaving us face to face with what truly matters, and God knows that. That's why He allows what He could easily prevent, not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to grow. You know as well as I do that some of the strongest people you've ever met are people who have walked through storms that would have crushed others. They didn't become strong by accident. Their strength was forged in fire, their faith was refined in trials, their courage was born in nights they thought would never end. And if you ask them, they'll tell you that the very pain they once begged God to take away became the very tool He used to shape their destiny. So hear this with every fiber of your being. Your pain is not God turning away. It is God working deeply, intentionally, and lovingly in your life. And one day when you look back, you will see it not as a moment of abandonment, but as a moment of divine affection so deep it changed you forever. When life is comfortable, when everything falls neatly into place, when the road is smooth and the days are easy, something subtle begins to happen inside us. We drift. We don't mean to. We don't set out to forget God. But comfort has a way of soothing us into spiritual sleep. Yet pain does something entirely different. Pain shakes us awake. Pain forces us to face the things we've ignored. Pain pushes us to ask questions we never thought to ask. And that is why I tell you today, with a voice that comes from experience, pain awakens, what comfort puts to sleep. Let me talk to you directly, not as someone miles above you, but as someone who understands how these seasons work. When everything is going right, prayer becomes casual, almost optional. Our Bible sits untouched. Our worship becomes familiar. Our hearts grow dull. But the moment the storm hits, the moment the ground shifts beneath our feet, the moment we find ourselves sitting in the middle of a situation we cannot control, that is when we suddenly rediscover our need for God. Pain strips away our illusions of self-sufficiency. It reminds us we were never meant to walk alone. There is something incredibly powerful that happens when life hurts. Our ears become more sensitive to God's voice. Our hearts become more open to His correction. Our spirits become more receptive to His presence. Pain has a way of pulling back the curtains that comfort closed, revealing the deeper work God has been waiting to do in us. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a house at night. The lights are dim, the atmosphere is quiet, and everything appears calm. But suddenly, a fire breaks out in one of the rooms. What happens? People wake up. They jump to their feet. They move with urgency. Why? Because danger has awakened them. Pain works in much the same way. It alerts our souls that something needs attention, something must change, something within us needs the touch of God. Some of the most profound spiritual breakthroughs in your life did not happen in seasons of comfort. They happened in seasons of crisis. Think back, really think. The moments where God became more real to you were probably the moments where your heart was broken, your plans fell apart, or your dreams seemed delayed. And yet, in that moment of weakness, you found clarity, you prayed differently, you worshiped differently, you surrendered. That is what pain does. It wakes us up. And let me tell you something deeply true. The enemy of your soul loves comfort more than you do because he knows comfort makes you sleepy. He knows comfort lulls you into complacency, but he trembles when God allows pain because pain is often the doorway to greater faith, greater strength, and greater intimacy with the Lord. Pain removes the fog. Pain removes the noise. Pain removes the distractions. It shifts your focus from the temporary to the eternal. It breaks the chains of apathy and reminds you that you were made for something greater than the life you're settling for. So if you're in a place today where your heart is hurting and you feel shaken, listen closely. You are awake now. And in that awakening, God is about to reveal things you couldn't see before. Pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to open your eyes. And once your eyes open, once your spirit awakens in the middle of that painful season, something extraordinary begins to take shape because pain not only wakes you up, it positions you for something far greater than you imagine. You begin to realize that the very ground where you felt weakest is often the very ground where God chooses to display His greatest strength. And that is why I need you to hear this with clarity. Pain becomes the platform for God's power. You see, God doesn't wait for the moment when you feel strong, confident, and capable. He doesn't wait for you to have everything figured out. He doesn't wait for the tears to stop or the storm to settle. God steps onto the stage of your life right in the middle of the chaos, right in the middle of the fear, right in the middle of the brokenness, because His power shines brightest when you have nothing left to offer but your surrender. Think about it. Every great move of God in Scripture happened at the intersection of human weakness and divine strength. The Red Sea didn't part while Israel stood on dry land celebrating. It parted when they were trapped, terrified, and helpless. The lions' mouths didn't close when Daniel was standing outside the den. It happened when he was surrounded by danger. The fire didn't become harmless when the 3 Hebrews were still outside the furnace. It happened when they were in the flames. God waits until the moment where your strength ends, because that is where His begins. And maybe right now you feel like you're at the end of your strength, the end of your hope, the end of your ability to fix what's broken. But what if the end for you is actually the beginning for God? What if the place where you feel most overwhelmed is the place where He intends to demonstrate His power in a way you've never seen before? Let me talk to you directly. God is not threatened by your weakness. He is not intimidated by your tears. He is not discouraged by your failures. He is not moved away by your confusion. In fact, your weakness is the very invitation that draws His power into your situation. When you say, "Lord, I can't do this anymore," heaven responds, "Good. Now watch what I can do." Pain has a way of breaking our pride, removing our illusions of control, and bringing us to a place of complete dependence. And it's in that place, right there, where your hands are empty and your heart feels fragile, that God performs His greatest work. He doesn't wait for perfection. He works through surrender. That difficult season you're walking through is not the evidence of God's silence. It is the platform He is building to reveal His strength. And when He steps into your situation, it won't just change the outcome, it will change you. Because once you experience God's power in your weakness, you will never again fear the battles that used to intimidate you. So stay in this moment with me. Let your heart lean into what God is doing, because the pain that awakened you is now preparing to reveal a power that will transform you. And when that transforming power begins its work in you, something even deeper starts to unfold, because God never displays His strength in your weakness just to leave you where you are. No, when He steps into your pain, He isn't just rescuing you, He's preparing you. He's shaping you for something far greater than the season you're standing in right now. And that brings us to a truth many people never realize until much later. Pain prepares you for a purpose that comfort never could. Think about it for a moment. Every person God has ever used in a significant way was prepared in places of discomfort. Joseph wasn't shaped in a palace. He was shaped in a pit, then in a prison. Moses wasn't prepared in the glory of Egypt. He was prepared in the wilderness, tending sheep. David didn't discover his calling on the throne. He discovered it while running for his life in caves. The pattern is the same again and again. The purpose God places on your life is often forged in seasons you would never choose. You might be looking at your circumstances right now and wondering, why am I going through this? Why this battle? Why this disappointment? Why this loss? But what if the very thing you're trying to escape is the very thing God is using to equip you? What if the pressure you feel is building the spiritual muscle you'll need for the next chapter of your destiny? Pain has a way of digging roots into your faith that comfort never bothers to grow. When everything is going well, you don't develop perseverance. You don't need it. When life is predictable, you don't learn resilience. It's unnecessary. But when the storm rages, when the nights feel long, when the questions are louder than the answers, that is where purpose is formed. Let me tell you something from experience. There are lessons you can only learn in the valley. Lessons about trust, lessons about patience, lessons about God's faithfulness that textbooks can't teach and sermons alone can't give you. There are qualities inside you, compassion, wisdom, empathy, spiritual authority that only emerge when you've walked through the fire yourself. You cannot guide someone through storms you've never faced. You cannot speak hope into someone's darkness if you've never walked in the night. God uses your pain to prepare you for a purpose far beyond your imagination. And here's something most people miss. The sensitivity you develop through pain becomes part of your calling. The tears you cry become your testimony. The wounds that once weakened you become the wisdom that strengthens others. The very battle you're fighting right now may be the very battlefield where God will raise you up to help someone else. So don't misunderstand what you're going through. This is not random. This is not pointless. This is not wasted. This is preparation. God is shaping you into someone who can stand in places you're not ready for yet. He's building character, endurance, depth, and courage. He's carving out a strength you will need for the assignment that's coming. And if the season feels heavy, it's because the calling on your life is heavy. God is preparing you for something that comfort could never equip you to carry. And if the season feels heavy, it's because the calling on your life is heavy. God is preparing you for something that comfort could never equip you to carry. And right there, right in the middle of that preparation, you begin to realize something profound. Pain is not the final chapter. It doesn't get to write the ending of your story. It doesn't get the last word. Because every time God allows pain to touch your life, He already has a plan to redeem it, reshape it, and transform it into something far greater than what you see right now. You may not understand the why. Today, you may be standing in a moment that feels confusing, overwhelming, even heartbreaking. But let me speak directly to your soul. God never wastes pain. He never allows a battle without designing a victory. He never permits a tear without preparing a breakthrough. He never leads you into a valley without already mapping the path out of it. What feels like the end for you may actually be the turning point God has been preparing all along. You see, God sees what you cannot see. He sees beyond the storm, beyond the sorrow, beyond the struggle. And while you're standing in the middle of the mess, feeling unsure of what's next, God is already working behind the scenes, weaving the threads of your pain into a tapestry of purpose. There are moments in life where all you can see is the broken piece right in front of you. But God sees the entire picture. He sees how the heartbreak will one day become the testimony that lifts someone else. He sees how the failure you're ashamed of will become the wisdom that guides another person to freedom. He sees how the season you begged Him to end will become the platform on which He reveals His goodness and power. So let me tell you something with boldness: your pain is not permanent. It is not the headline of your story. It is not the conclusion. Pain is a chapter, but God is the author, and He is too faithful to let the story end in defeat. He is too loving to let sorrow be your final scene. He is too powerful to let darkness overshadow the destiny He designed for you. What you're walking through right now may feel like it's crushing you, but God is using it to shape you. It may feel like loss, but God is using it to position you. It may feel like confusion, but God is using it to direct you. And one day, when you look back, you will see that the moment you thought was breaking you was actually the moment God was building you into someone stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the calling on your life. You might not feel it today, but restoration is on its way. Healing is on its way. Breakthrough is on its way. God does not let pain conclude a story. He intends to complete with glory. And even though you can't see the ending yet, He is writing one far more beautiful than anything you could imagine.